Welcome to the viewers and learners. Today we are going to discuss an important subject called the Central Consumer Protection Council and the Central Consumer Protection Authority created under the Consumer Protection Act 2019. This topic is covered under our program certificate in consumer protection, and the course code is CPI 101 and the block number is 4 and the unit number is 17. Now, when we talk about the Central Consumer Protection Council, it deals with the advisory power or advisory function of the Commission, whereas the Central Consumer Protection Authority deals with the regulatory power of the regulatory function of the Commission. So, one is the Central Consumer Protection Council is advisory in nature, whereas the Central Consumer Protection Authority is regulatory in nature. Now, coming by first, we will take the Central Consumer Protection Council. This is the power to appoint the Central Consumer Protection Council is vested with the central government. Let me repeat it again. This is the three-tier structure, one at the central level, at the national level, one at the state level, one at the district level. I will briefly touch upon all the three structures. So, coming back to the Central Consumer Protection Council at the national level, and the power to establish or appoint this council is vested upon the central government, particularly the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Government of India. As I said earlier, the nature and job of the council is to advise on the protection and promotion of the interest of the consumer rights. That is what so the nature of the nature purpose of the council is advisory in nature. Now the composition of the council. With regard to the Central Consumer Protection Council, it consists of the chairperson. First of all, he is the Union Minister of the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Government of India. So, he will be the chairperson of this council, and the State Minister for Ministry of Consumer Affairs, he will be the vice chairperson of this council, and apart from these two, there are 33 other members which will be nominated by the central government and the state government concerned. So, the composition of the council is consist of the Union Minister and the State Union Minister of Consumer Affairs, Government of India as chairperson and vice chairperson respectively, and 34 other members. So, the total membership consists of 36 members about the composition of the Central Consumer Protection Council concerned. Now, the next one is what is the procedure for calling the meetings of the Central Council? The law provides that the Central Council meeting be called as many times as possible. However, at least one meeting should be held every year. That is what very important. There is no limit, minimum or maximum to call the meeting, but the minimum threshold is a meeting. If for one reason or other, if it is not possible to call the meeting, then at least one meeting should be called in. Like last year was the COVID period. The government would not have called any meeting and also, but a minimum is one meeting is called to be called and all. And when to hold the meeting, where to hold the meeting, all these things will be decided by the chairperson of the National Consumer Council. That is very important. About this time, schedule, venue, all these things will be decided by the chairperson of that is the Union Minister of our Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Government of India is concerned. Now, coming back to what is the object of the council, as I said already, the object of the Central Consumer Protection Council is to render advice on promotion and protection of the consumer rights. Now, there are two words are important: promotion of the consumer rights and protection of the consumer rights. Now, what are those consumer rights? That has been discussed already in another our lecture in the title consumer rights. We have a separate video. Please watch this video so to understand what are the consumer rights. However, let me briefly tell you what are the consumer rights. The consumer rights there are 6 consumer rights. One is the right to safety, another one is the right to be informed, and the third is the right to be assured, and the fourth one is the right to redressal, then right to consumer awareness. These are the 6 consumer rights are concerned. Now, how these consumer rights can be promoted and protected? by a body like a Consumer Protection Council. See, there are one may be, the actions may be preventive in nature. If the consumer rights are, say, violated by any of the producer or the seller or the manufacturer, one way could be before the rights are violated, the council can discuss how to prevent this violation of the rights. Then the second one will be preventive measures. One is the protective measure, preventive measures. One is the preventive and protective measure. Preventive measures is how to stop the violation of the rights, and the protective measure is the what we should do once the right is violated. So these two angles, they may, again, at the cost of repetition, let me tell you, their nature of task is purely advisory, meaning thereby the advice tendered by this consumer council may be accepted or may not be accepted by the government, or in other words, the suggestion, advice given by the Central Consumer Council is not binding on the central government. This is what very briefly about the Central Consumer Protection Council. Now we will move on to the another aspect, that is the State Consumer Protection Council. Now we will move on to discuss the composition and purpose and objective of the State Consumer Protection Council. As I said, in the case of central government, the central government is having the power to establish the National Consumer Protection Council, whereas in the case of the State Consumer Protection Council, it is the state government or the concerned state government is vested with the power to appoint a State Consumer Protection Council. Again, the nature of the purpose and objective of the council is analogous to the National Consumer Protection Council, same advisory in nature only. That means the primary job or task of the State Consumer Protection Council is to advise, to tender advice or suggestions to the government concerned with respect to the protection and promotion of the rights of the consumers. That is our primary job is. There is little change, or the pattern of the composition of member is analogous or similar to that of the Central Consumer Council. Obviously, when this power to establish the commission of the state government, naturally the state government will have the power to appoint the chairperson also. So in the case of State Consumer Protection Council, the state government, the concerned state government, concerned state government minister for consumer affairs, he will be the chairperson of this State Consumer Council for each state. Let me repeat it, for each state and union territory there will be one State Consumer Protection Council for the state as well as the union territory, as the case may be. So therefore that's very, very important. It is not the one State Consumer Protection Council, it is for each state there will be one State Consumer Protection Council, and each state's the minister for the Department of Consumer Affairs, he will be the chairperson, and the deputy minister, if there is such person is concerned, then he will be the vice chairman of this council. And apart from that, then the state government is vested with the power to determine the number of officials as well as non-officials to be co-opted with the councils. Then also, in addition to this, the power vested upon the state government to nominate officials as well as the non-officials. That who will be the officials, who will be the non-officials, that also one should understand. Official means maybe the secretary to the Department of the Consumer Affairs, he will be an official, or the department dealing with the Consumer Affairs minister, even this consumer department, or even the goods like the handloom sector is related to the consumption of the goods, or even the food and civil supplies, they are also supplying the goods. So that also becomes, so the secretaries of the consumer affairs, secretaries of the Department of Food, or even the agriculture, so different officials of maybe co-opted as a member for this commission. Then who will be the non-official? Non-officials are other than the official, meaning thereby those who are involved or associated with the non-governmental organization or social welfare organizations, then who are closely working for the benefit of the consumers, then such members or the members associated with such a non-government association may be co-opted as members of this council and all. The objective purpose only if the government officers alone sit and decide the matter, it may not be say accepted to the people concerned. So there must be a mixture of officials as well as non-official. The reason is very simple. Officials with they have the one connotation. Their job is to go as per their own official responsibilities, but sometimes the protection in the consumer interest may require a different way of thinking and looking also. Therefore, co-option of the non-official member is equally important. So that's what, and the government can nominate to a maximum of 10 members about concerned. This is about the concern. Then again, the procedure for calling the meetings. If in the case National Council, I said there must be at least one meeting called in a year. In the case of State Consumer Council, there at least 2 meetings should be held every year. That is a very, very important, because the state, their frequent meeting is very, very nice. Nation is a very large in size, so it may not be possible to, even financially also, it may not be viable to call frequent meetings, because people will be coming from all parts of the country. The size will be very unwieldy size will be there, whereas the state comes very a little compact size. Therefore, it is quite possible they can meet twice or thrice anytime also. Again, they can meet as many number of times as possible. However, a minimum of 2 meetings should be called every year. And again, when to meet, where to meet and when to meet, that will be decided by the chairperson of each State Consumer Protection Council. In this case, the State Minister for the Department of Consumer Affairs, he will decide the date, venue, place, where to meet and all those things and all. Again, as I already said several times, what is the object purpose of the State Council is concerned to render or suggest advice to the state government concerned on the protection and the promotion of the consumer right is concerned. So this is what in a nutshell about this State Consumer Protection Council is concerned. Now we will move on to the District Consumer Protection Council. As I said, it's a 3-tier structure, one at the national level, one at the state level, one at the district level. These are the administrative structure provided under our constitution also. So this is also following the same structure, national level, state level, district level. Again, we have over 600 districts, so each district will have one District Consumer Protection Council, and the power to appoint District Consumer Council is vested the state government. Again nature of the council as the same for the National Council and State Council only, purely advisory. Their job is to tender advice on the how to protect and how to promote the interest of the consumer is concerned. Again, the composition is different, and here the district collector will be the chairperson of the commission, and the district collector can co-opt any number of persons for this for the districts concerned. Again, officials from the various departments. The assistant in the district level, they are appointed the assistant directors. So assistant director, Department of Agriculture or Department of Food and Civil Supplies, or maybe any other department, they may be co-opted as officials. And the non-officials from the non-governmental organization working at the district level, in the interest of the consumer, they may be co-opted as a member also. And with regard to this, again, the number of meetings to be called, again, district is a small unit, and it should be meet as many number of times as possible, at least in any case not less than 2 meetings in every year, that should be called. And again, in the case of here, the chairperson of the district collector will be the chairperson of this council, and he has the right to co-opt the person concerned, and he is also having the right to decide the venue of the meeting, the agenda for the meetings, and what are the agenda points to be discussed. All this will be discussed with the chairperson of concern. One more point I forgot to tell you: in all these cases, the meetings, the council meeting will be before calling the meeting, the concerned department or ministry have to prepare the agenda for discussion, and it should be circulated in well advance of the meeting, so that the members come prepared and they participate in the qualitative discussion of concerned. And after the successful conduct of the meeting, the minutes have to be prepared. In the minutes, it must be clearly noted what are the points discussed, what are the suggestions made, what are the actions to be initiated, by which are the departments who are are supposed to take action and all. This has to be clearly mentioned in the minutes. Then thereafter, the minutes should be circulated to the state government concerned and the concerned department concerned by the government. The minutes will be submitted to the government. Then it is for the left of the government to go through these recommendations. If they are found viable and feasible, they may take the actions based on the suggestion or recommendation given. If the state government comes to the conclusion that it may be very difficult or may not be feasible to say implement to accept all the recommendation, well, they may not take cognizance of such a suggestion recommendation. So this in a nutshell, we are concluding the discussion on Consumer Protection Council established at the central level and the state level and the district level. Now we will move on to discuss another important segment of today's lecture, that is the Central Consumer Protection Authority. So far we have discussed about the three-tier structure or three-tier institutional mechanism provided at the national level, state level and district level for the constitution, composition and functions of the Consumer Council at these three levels. Now in the same pattern, and I already said, the nature of this council are advisory in nature, whereas in the case of Central Consumer Protection Authority, they are regulatory in nature. That means they have the more power to regulate the matters on which they have the powers and also. That is what very important. So the nature of the authority is regulatory, that I will discuss in very quickly, and whereas in the Consumer Council, it is the advisory nature. Now, what is the object of the Central Consumer Protection Authority? Very important. As I said already, the primary purpose and objective of the Central Consumer Protection Authority is to regulate matters relating to, number one, violation of the consumer rights. I have already listed the consumer rights. What are those consumer rights? Right to safety, right to be informed, right to be assured of the competitive prices, right to be heard and right to be informed, and the right to be redressal and the right to consumer awareness. These are the consumer rights. So wherever the right is, then violation of the consumer rights. The question is, violation by whom? Either the violation of either it will be by the producer or trader or manufacturer in the case of goods, or it may be the service provider in the case of rendering of the services. So violation of the consumer rights by this manufacturers, traders and all on the service provider, that is what that will be seen to regulate those violations by these concerned the authorities are concerned these producers and all. Now the another thing where there lies the regulatory power, the Central Consumer Protection Authority is also the power to regulate the practice of unfair trade practice adopted by the traders. First of all, what is unfair trade practice? To understand what is unfair trade, one should understand what is trade practices. Trade practice is the practices adopted by the traders with regard to the promotion of the goods and the services hired also. Now, the trade practice may be two ways: fair trade practices, that is. Another one is unfair trade practice. What is trade practice? Trade practice is the practices adopted by the trader or the manufacturer or the sellers in accordance with the guidelines or rules and regulations framed by the concerned regulatory authority or the government, as the case may be. So that is what we call it the fair trade practice. Then as and when this producer, manufacturer, seller or a service provider, if they undertake practices which are contrary to the provisions of the law, rules and regulations, it is called unfair trade practices. Now, what was this unfair trade practices? Maybe one example could be, I think in my previous lecture I said, yet when you go for purchase the vehicles, very often it has come to the knowledge of the courts that the traders or the dealers and the manufacturer also, they purchase the old vehicles and renovate it and make it look like a brand new, and after doing this the services, they sell it as a brand new vehicle. No, definitely selling a old vehicle into new in the form of a new vehicle is a unfair trade practices. So, therefore this will be, so if it is brought to the notice of the then in such, if the consumer who purchase such vehicle, if it comes to the notice that the vehicle, there may be different way, whether a new brand vehicle, the performance will be very good, extremely good, but in the case of old vehicle, the performance will not be to that extent, will be very good or very appreciable. So once we sit in the vehicle, anybody will come to the conclusion whether the vehicle is new or old one and all. So if there are several other ways also to find out, even several unfair practices will be that telling that making the people false advertisement, that will be one unfair trade practices, or making the people to believe that this the vehicle or the product will be very useful, wherein it in real case it may not be very useful at all. So likewise this type of the unfair trade practices adopted by the trade, that's what the unfair trade practice, some of the examples and all. Then the third aspect on which they can regulate the subject matter is a false or misleading advertisement, and most importantly this false or misleading advertisement should be prejudicial to the interest of the public and the consumers. Today you see, open this TV, you come across large number of advertisements, very often making false claims, false advertisement, false assurances, whether all type of products and all. The advertisement, they say that no, if you take this particular say drinks, or you take this follow this particular measure, your weight will be reduced within for 1 month, 5 kilos, 10 kilos, 15 kilos, 20 kilos. Whereas the doctor's opinion is that in a normal circumstances, it is not possible to reduce more than 3 to 4 kgs. If there is reduction of more than 3 to 4 kgs, either the person is having serious medical issues or problems. This is what the opinion of the doctor. Whereas the advertisement, you see that the advertisement coming for those who are very fat, they consume that, they give the medicine or this thing, and they will that weight will reduce to 20 to 30 kilos, contrary to the medical opinion. So similarly, for even for people who are very lean and thin, the contrary, they said if they come with advertisement, you take our product, then you will become very fat and all. Even for the children, I don't want them any of the companies. Even the companies are coming with advertisement for the children. If they take that particular beverages or particular drink, they will become very healthy. So those things are not believable. So this type of advertisement which motivate the parents to go for a children. Now the children related advertisements are there. Then female related advertisements are coming for they said that if the female consume the particular type of beverages, they will get more strength and power and all. This is for it's not unbelievable. So the advertisement making the people to believe which is not correct or true, then that will come under definitely come under false or misleading advertisements. So, and if that advertisements are, if it is prejudicial to the interest of the public and consumers, so that is very important. If it is going to affect the interest of the consumers and all, because the government is the sovereign government, it has the sovereign duty and responsibility to protect the interest of the public and the consumer. Therefore, it is the regulatory authority is created, and as and when they come up any false or misleading advertisements, then they can initiate action against such producers, manufacturers, traders and the service providers. Even I can also tell you with regard to some services, I also some of the lectures I referred it. Sometimes false assurances are given by the service providers. The bank says that you please keep your deposit, we will give you 15%, 10%, 12% interest rate. When reality, when you go there, they cannot give, the banks cannot assure interest rate more than the interest rate prescribed by the Reserve Bank of India. But some of the banks are concerned, they, with the intention to allure the public, they make such a false propaganda, and when you go to for making the dicks and all, no sir, they make under excuses, this rates has been this and all, like they lame excuses. Again, see, like in the jewel, for jewels and all, they give the same thing only. They assure that you will get the money immediately, you return your gold, then we'll pay the full money, but the full money is not paid. In practical case and all. all. Likewise, there are the insurance companies. They assure you at the time of taking the policy, all the promises they make. But at the time of maturity, at the time of taking recourse against some health policy and all, we are not getting the required relief and all. So these are the false or misleading advertisements are coming, or the promises are made. In such cases, the Central Consumer Protection Authority is vested with the power to regulate on these aspects. Violation of the consumer rights, unfair trade practices, making false or misleading advertisement, prejudicial to the interests of public and the consumers, and also they have the right to regulate, to promote, protect and enforce rights of the consumers. So these are the important objects of the Consumer Protection Council is concerned. Now then the one more thing I wanted to tell you is, it is the regulatory authorities, they have the power even to search and seizure. They have the quasi-judicial powers also. That means they can, that I'll come to later. It's a quasi-judicial power is also vested upon them. This is to be kept in mind. Now coming back to for your information, now the Central Consumer Protection Authority is already created and established by the central government. Now it is seated at the Indian Institute of Public Administration, New Delhi, and that commissioner has been appointed. The additional secretary to the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, she has been appointed the Chief Commissioner, and the joint secretaries in the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, they have been appointed as the joint commissioners of the Central Consumer Protection Authority is concerned. So, in practical purposes, the government of India has already appointed, constituted the Central Consumer Protection Authority, and it is housed in the Indian Institute of Public Administration, New Delhi, and they started functioning also. That's very, very important that one should know. Now they started taking cognizance of the matters on which they have received the complaints, or suo motu actions are being taken also. Now, the law also provided for the qualification method of recruitment. The law and the rules and regulations are framed wherein the central government is vested with the power to make rules to provide for the what should the qualification of the commissioners and other deputy commissioner or joint commissioners, or their qualification has to be prescribed by the central government only, and the method of recruitment, whether it be direct recruitment or through deputation basis or through consultancy basis, that will be also be decided by the central government only. Then procedure for upon what procedure to be followed, whether any search committee should be constituted, or any screening committee should be constituted, or any selection committee to be constituted, this will be determined by the central government only. And the term of the office, whether it should be 3 years, 5 years, 4 years or 1 year, that also will be decided by the central government. And with regard to what should the salary and allowance payable to the consumer, to the concerned authority concerned, including resignation, removal, all this matter, the central government is vested with the power to frame rules and regulation. Then other terms and conditions of service commissions is also the commission vested with the power to. Now, as I said, this appointment of the office and experts of Central Consumer Protection Authority, it's by the central government and to be headed by the Director General and this concerned. And there will be, it's a central investigation being, we are coming to the investigation being appointment of the office and expert of the Central Consumer Protection Council. One is the council which I said referred about this, and the another one is the Central Consumer Protection Authority, the investigation wing, that will be headed by the Director General, and the purpose of this investigation wing is to conduct any inquiry or investigation. That is very, very important. I said no, it's a punitive nature, it's a quasi-judicial nature. The investigation being headed by the Director General appointed by the central government. That primary job is to conduct any investigation or any inquiry. Then what about, suppose if any complaint is made that the goods supplied or sold is injurious to health or not good fit, not having the meeting the quality standards prescribed the food and safety standards of India. Now, suppose such type of complaints are received with the samples and all. Suppose the procedure per the act is, whenever any consumer or the consumer association, if they wanted to file a complaint about the defect in the goods they purchase, they have to, in the case of where there is a test is required, then In cases where the test is required for investigation, then they have to take the sample of that goods, then they have to send it for a investigation also, inquiry also. So let us say food grain, or it may be oil, or it may be anything. So if there is any contaminant in the oil sold, or these things, then there's quantity of the sample will be sent, and the sample will be sent to the concerned laboratory and all. The procedure in the detailed manner. So one is the conducting investigation and the inquiry. Inquiries also, inquiries based on the information received or suo motu, they can make the preliminary, they can call for the preliminary information, and if it is found true, then go for the detailed inquiry and the investigation and all. Then once the inquiry or the investigation or verification of facts is concerned, even the search and seizure, if there is goods are stored in the places where without, and they are not sold to the public, then they can, the authorities can designate the concerned officer to go and search the premises, even to seize the goods also. So such of the punitive powers are vested with this Central Consumer Protection Authority also. Now to conduct search and investigation of this concern, then also once the search and inquiry, the inquiry is completed, then the Central Consumer Protection Authority has to submit the inquiries or the investigation made the direction to the Central Consumer Protection Authority. So they have to make the report to the, which I referred about the earlier, Central Consumer Protection Authority. These two things are different. Central Consumer Protection Authority is different, which is the bigger body, and within that there is a separate wing called the investigation wing, which for the purpose of exclusively to conduct inquiry and investigation. And this inquiry, Director Generals have been also appointed by the government. They also started functioning. As I said, the investigation wing, it is also at the function of the three levels. At the national level, it is headed by the Director General, support with the additional Joint Deputy Director Generals. And the second tier or second layer is at the regional level, headed with the Commissioner of Regional Office. It may be for 3 to 4 states put together, like Northern region, Southern region, Western region, and so on and so forth. So it will be, second layer is at the regional level, and the third layer is the district level, which will be headed by the District Collector. The nature of the function, the regulatory power and functions are the analogous to at the national level, regional level, and the district level are the one and the same. They, all the powers are the similar to the one another only. That is mean they have the power to search and seize, and they are in order for investigation, they can go for an inquiry. All these powers are available to all these three functionaries at the national level to the Director General, and at the regional level to the Commissioner of Regional Office, and the district level. So they have to submit the report to the concerned authorities. Like the district level will submit the report to the regional officers, regional commissioner, and the regional commissioner in turn will submit to the Director General, and the Director General in turn will submit to the Central Consumer Protection Authorities concerned. With this, we conclude this discussion today, and thank you very much for listening this lecture. Thank you very much.